And join Councilmember Henn in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then that will be followed, remain standing for the invocation by Mr. Frank Carpenter.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in an invocation. Heavenly Father, thank you for these leaders and these citizens who've gathered together this evening to participate in governing our fair city. We thank you for the blessing of being able to work and live in such a beautiful place. Give us wisdom as we deal with the issues at hand, patience with one another, and vision as we look towards the future. We ask your blessing on this evening. Amen.
Amen. We have a couple of presentations this evening. May I invite, see here, the representatives from the Mad Deuce Awards. Are you here? Okay. Jenny Condi, are you here? Okay.
The dogs are going to come in about a month or so.
The representatives from Donate Life here. Please come forward. There we go. So while you're coming forward, we have a proclamation that we're going to read. This is National Donate Life Month. It's a very important time of the year. So let me read this proclamation, and then we'll hear from our guests. Whereas organ, tissue, marrow, and blood donations are life-saving acts recognized worldwide as an expression of compassion to those in need, and whereas more than 100,000 individuals nationwide and more than 21,000 in California are currently on the National Organ Transplant waiting list, and every 90 minutes one person dies while waiting due to the shortage of donated organs, and whereas the need for donated organs is especially urgent for Hispanic and African American communities, and whereas more than 600,000 units of blood per year are needed to meet the need in California, and whereas at any given time 6,000 patients are in need of volunteer marrow donors, whereas a single individual's donation of the heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, pancreas, and small intestine can save up to 8 lives, donation of tissues can save and heal the lives of up to 50 others, and a single blood donation can help 3 people in need, and whereas millions of lives each year are saved and healed by donors of organs, tissues, marrow, and blood, and whereas the spirit of giving and decision to donate are not restricted by age or medical condition, and whereas nearly 9 million Californians have signed up with the state-authorized Donate Life California Registry to ensure their wishes to be organ and tissue donors are honored, and whereas California residents can sign up with the Donate Life California Registry when applying for or renewing their driver's license or ID cards at the California Department of Motor Vehicles. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Keith Curry, Mayor of Newport Beach, on behalf of the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim April 2013 as DMV Donate Life California Month. If you'd like to make some remarks, please step to the microphone.
Mayor Curry and council members, my name is Rosemary O'Megan and I work as a critical care physician at Hoag Hospital. It is in this role and as a citizen of Newport Beach that I thank the Council for their continued support for organ and tissue donation. For those who receive the gift of life, it is truly life-saving. Organ and tissue donation is a human issue with human impact. Most in this room will know of someone who is awaiting transplantation or who has been a recipient of organ or tissue donation. There is also the generosity of the donors and their families who make the life-saving organ donation and life-changing tissue donation a reality. Registering to be an organ, eye, and tissue donor is one of the finest and most unselfish humanitarian actions that an individual can take. As of today, there are 117,717 people on the national waiting list for organ transplantation, and 7,917 are on the waiting list for the organ transplantation in the greater Los Angeles area. Due to a lack of donors, 19 people die every day awaiting a second chance of life. Anything that can be done to help this situation is valuable. in particular, community education and increasing donor registration rate, currently at 49% nationally. So thank you to our Newport Beach City Council for their continued leadership and support for organ and tissue donation and the Donate Life Month activities. Thank you.
Thank you, and I too am from Donate Life. I'm actually the Newport Beach ambassador. I just signed on recently, and I wanted to share a little bit of my story with you. 26 years ago, I was diagnosed with lupus, and if you're not familiar, it's an autoimmune disease that attacks, it's almost like being allergic to yourself. And from the get-go, it started attacking my kidneys, and they started to fail in 2005. I am so fortunate that my brother was able to step up. His name's Nicholas Hood. He's a Corona Del Mar graduate. And he gave me his kidney January 27th of '06. It is such an amazing gift. I remember waking up from my surgery and the nurse clapping, she's peeing, because it is such a gift. It seems so simple, but truly that's what they look for, and it saved my life. I'd probably be on a machine today if it wasn't for him, and or on a waiting list. In fact, the average wait time for a kidney transplant is 10 years, and a lot of people end up dying. Average dying time is 8 years. So thank you again, Mayor Curry, and all you council members. We truly appreciate your time in helping us create awareness for organ donation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming down. Donate Life is a very important thing. I have a little sticker on my driver's license that indicates that if there's anything left of me, they're welcome to it when I go, and I encourage all of you to make that same choice yourselves. We'll now move to notice to the public.
The city provides a yellow sign-in card to assist in the preparation of the minutes. The completion of the card is not required in order to address the city council. If the optional sign-in card has been completed, it should be placed in the box provided at the podium. The city council of Newport Beach welcomes and encourages community participation. Public comments are generally limited to 3 minutes per person to allow everyone to speak. Written comments are encouraged as well. The City Council has a discretion to extend or shorten the time limit on agenda or non-agenda items. As a courtesy, please turn cell phones off or set them in the silent mode. Now is the time for council announcements or matters which council members would like placed on a future agenda for discussion, action, or report.
Councilmember Gardner.
I have two. The first is identity theft has become such an issue. Many of our residents have fallen victim to it. And I think it would be helpful if we could have a brief presentation from our police department as to, some of the things you can do to prevent it, but also what you do, what you should do when it does happen, what the role, if any, our police department would play. So I think that would be very helpful to all of us. Secondly, this past Sunday, we had a seminar at the Explore Ocean on stand-up paddling and safety. And it was a very informative. Coast Guard Auxiliary was there, and they produced a number of excellent brochures on water safety, everything from boating to personal watercraft, and they provide these at no cost. So I'm hoping that if I give the information to the city staff, that we can provide space for some of these on at City Hall, at our library, and our community centers, because they will be very helpful to our residents. And I'll also contact Gary Sherwin and see if we can get them in some of the hotels. And the second part of it was a specific brochure has been created for stand-up paddling, created in large part by Letty Young, sorry. And I would like staff to come back with some wording so that when those who rent paddle boards get their business license, we can get some kind of agreement that they will have, we can get them laminated copies of the brochure, and that people have to read it before they paddle. Because I think a lot of times the experiences like mine, when I rented a board the first time I ever went out, They said, here's your life jacket, here's your board, here's your paddle. Fortunately, I could swim, I could surf, and I knew the harbor, but most of our renters probably don't. So the more information we can give them, I think the more helpful it will be.
Thank you. Mr. Petros.
I have two as well. First, I have received notice that two major initiatives in Newport Beach are going to be recognized by the Orange section of the American Planning Association. Our Newport Banning Ranch project and the neighborhood revitalization efforts that the city undertook will be recognized at the May 8th ceremony. So we should be very proud of the efforts that, one, the local development community is taking in our town, as well as the efforts that the council is directing and the community is getting involved in. The other, Hoag Memorial Hospital Presbyterian, was recently honored by two industry organizations for clinical excellence. Becker Hospital Review named Hoag in District 2 of our city one of the 100 great hospitals in America. In fact, Hoag was the only hospital in Orange County to receive this accolade. That publication stated hospitals named to the list, quote, have demonstrated a commitment to the health of their communities and have proven to be innovators for medical treatments, research, technology, and care delivery. In addition, Health Grades named Hoag to their list of 100 top hospitals in the U.S. and then further refined that list to the top 50 U.S. hospitals, which again featured Hoag as the only Orange County hospital in the top 50 list. According to Health Grades, this puts Hoag in the company of the top 1% of hospitals in the nations based on physician and hospital quality, again in our town. So I just want to make sure that we recognize the efforts in our community.
Mr. Hill.
Yes, I have a couple. First one that everyone should hopefully be aware of, that we are in the process of accepting applications for the Bicycle Master Plan Committee, and we are going to extend the deadline for filing applications to April 26. So this is a brand new committee that we are forming, and we have 7 seats available on that. And once again, the application deadline will be extended to April 26. The second thing I'd like to comment on is that it really hit me over the weekend and then yesterday and today, where we have had staff presentations and responses to inquiries that have taken place over the last few days. And over the last few days, the staff has successfully moved the City Hall from one location to another and still somehow managed to accomplish the work to get us here tonight. And so I congratulate the staff on a move well done and continuing to put out the work. And then the third item that I'm going to report on tonight, which just puts everything else to shame, is my third child, Lindsay, got married Saturday at the Balboa Yacht Club. And we're very excited that she and John are sipping margaritas on their honeymoon at this point in time. So that's my report, Mr. President.
Congratulations. Thank you. Councilmember Daigle.
Yes, I'd appreciate the report by Councilwoman Gardner and recognize and appreciate the proactive efforts of the stand-up paddleboarders, SOUP, to have their safety ceremony and their seminar, rather, and their ongoing education efforts. It's come to my attention that the Port of Long Beach is going to be issuing a call for more contaminated material into their Middle Harbor project. And what happened is the Corps of Engineers isn't going to be able to, the port isn't going to be able to produce the amount of contaminated material that they originally estimated. So what the port is going to do is issue a call for more material. Now, in the last batch, Newport Beach had a very, very successful mobilization of contaminated materials. It was about, I think, 80,000 from the cubic yards from the Rhine and 100,000 cubic yards from the rest of lower Newport Bay. And also with the Rhine project, the city, we're self-starters. We got the permits, hired the contractor, and made it happen. On the other project, because it did involve federal money, we went through the Corps where there's a 20% markup on contracting. So I'd like for, and I recognize that we may have had enough dredging for a while. However, this opportunity to open up for the contaminated sediment won't come back for another 20 years. So it may be something we want to avail our community of. And it's my understanding that we've got about 200,000 cubic yards left in the harbor, much of it located southwest of Lido. So I'd like for the council to at least have the conversation and the discussion in the next few months. If, number one, is this something we would want to do to dredge the additional material? And secondly, if we were to go down that path, is it something we would want to do on our own or involve the Corps? So, thank you.
Just to add to that, we might want to consider the Semniak Slough because
There
we
you go.
haven't done our part because of the contamination.
Exactly.
Thank you. Mr. Henn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Three announcements. First, the Balboa Village Advisory Committee will be meeting tomorrow, Wednesday, at 4 p.m. at Explore Ocean. We have an agenda that will include finalization of our recommendations on maintenance standards for the village, and then some reports having to do with the facade, that is, the facade renovation, building facade renovation subcommittee that's working on some solutions there, as well as the parking governance subcommittee. And we'll also hear a little bit of an update on an initiative to introduce an Urban Land Institute technical advisory panel for Balboa Village, which we are still not final, but we're hopeful to schedule for September the 11th of this year. And so we'll be talking about that too. The Finance Committee will be meeting on Monday, April the 22nd at 4 p.m., and I'm not sure where. We used to meet in the old council conference room. I'm not sure where in this building that meeting will take place. And we're still working on the agenda, but I'm expecting it'll be a pretty substantive agenda once again. And then lastly, the Newport Ensenada race, long tradition, very well known and identified with our city as well as Ensenada, Mexico. That race will kick off on Friday, April the 26th, around noon off the Balboa Pier. It's really a spectacular sight, all of the boats as they get ready to leave for Ensenada. However, and more importantly, I think, actually, for our community, is that Balboa Village is now positioning themselves to be sort of race central for the Newport Ensenada race. And you might notice that there will be these posters in and around Balboa Village advertising two parties in the village associated with the race. The first will be on Sunday, April the 21st from noon to 5 p.m. We've got something called Stroll, Sample, and Sip. I think that means you get to walk around and, graze on food and have a drink or two if you'd like. In addition to that, there'll be lots of kids' activities, live music. You'll be able to, I hope, see a few of the race boats. There will be a chalk art festival where we will invite the Newport Elk kids and others to come in and draw works of art on the pavement in Balboa Village. That'll be a lot of fun. There's fun for the older folks with a beer garden, and there'll be horse-drawn carriage rides around the village. So it's going to be a great time, lots of fun for kids of all ages in Balboa Village on April the 21st. And then on Thursday, April the 25th, from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m., will be a fiesta in the Balboa Village Fun Zone. This is one of the actual official race events, and I'm expecting there will be probably a couple thousand people down there at one time or another at that time. And that's a free admission event with food and music and maybe some wine. So a couple of real nice opportunities to enjoy yourself in the Balboa Village. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Henn. Mr. Selich.
I have no announcements this evening.
I have a few tonight. First of all, we are going to celebrate the completion of dredging the Lower Bay on April 17th at 2:30 in the afternoon at the Newport Harbor Yacht Club, which is located at 720 West Bay Avenue. If you plan to attend, please RSVP to the Public Works Department, 949-644-3311. As noted by the Mayor Pro Tem, we, in fact, are completing the move to the new City Hall this week. The new City Hall is open for business on April the 11th, and please hold May 4th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. for a grand community celebration to come tour your new facility, check out the new library expansion, the park, and come and visit with your neighbors. The Marine Band will be here for that day. Many of you remember young Vanis Buchholz, who was here with us, I guess, in January, who started a recycling business in Corona del Mar, and we gave him a certificate. Young Mr. Buchholz has been awarded the Points of Light Award by President George H.W. Bush for his initiative, and so we congratulate Vanis for the great work that he's done and for the recognition that he continues to bring to our community. And then another thing is we've seen many reports in the newspapers recently of people who've lost pets to coyotes, particularly in the Back Bay area. So I'd like staff and Public Works to look into the feasibility of putting some warning signs reminding people that there are coyotes in our canyon areas and giving them tips on how to be mindful to protect their pets during the course of the season coming forward. And then finally, as you know, it's been since 2006 was the last time we've had a comprehensive update of the Newport Beach General Plan. It has indeed been an historic document that has guided the economic growth and development of our community since then. But like all plans, it gets a little long in the tooth. And what I would like staff to do is come back to the Council with a program of those elements of the plan that ought to be reviewed and a schedule for how they should be reviewed so we can ensure adequate and appropriate community input into that program and policies and those changes, and be in a position to move our city forward even more, keeping our general plan fresh and current and responsive to the changing economic conditions in our city. So with that, we'll now move to the consent calendar.
Public comments are invited on consent calendar items 1 through 14. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes. Before speaking, please state your name for the record. To the extent that any item is removed from the consent calendar by a council member, members of the public are invited to speak on each item for up to 3 minutes per item. All matters listed under consent calendar are considered to be routine and will all be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. The council members have received detailed staff reports on each of the items recommending an action. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time the City Council votes on the motion unless members of the City Council request specific items to be discussed and or removed from the consent calendar for separate action. I'd like to note that Council and there are items placed on the back counter regarding some amended items, so the motions will include the amendments to the minutes, an amendment to an attachment to the resolution for item 3, an amended resolution relative to the effective date for item 4, and a corrected contract, which is attachment C for item 8.
Okay, thank you. Are there any items that council members would like to pull? Councilmember Daigle.
No items to pull, but I did want to draw attention to item number 13, and that's where the city is retaining GE Navarus to help us out with these departure paths. And once again, our citizens have stepped up on airport issues, and I'd like to recognize the participation of the following individuals in working to eventually, that's our goal, to get the FAA to accept modern technologies for guiding our departure procedures. And as noted in the staff report, the following individuals participated: Tom Anderson, Leanne Bowman, David Brown, Tony Corey, Martin Crady, Bonnie O'Neill, Bob Taylor, Karen Tringali, as well as Bob Pastore and Tom Naughton, both of whom suggested the city consult with GE Navarus. And any success of this endeavor is going to require the unanimous consent of the community moving forward. And secondly, I wanted to note that this is just another groundbreaking initiative by the City of Newport Beach to be a leader in managing the impact of airports on a local community. And finally, I want to thank our aviation consultant, Tom Edwards, and our city manager, Dave Kiff, who continue to organize these efforts and relate to the airport and to the FAA with just great finesse, because that's what it takes to be able to move things forward with those entities. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Henn.
Nothing to pull, but two quick comments. First off, on item number 11, I want to note for the record my abstention on the approval of that item in the minutes, as I had to recuse myself. But secondly, with regard to item number 12 on the July 4th banners for West Newport, I just want to note in passing here that this is another step forward in our multi-year strategy to change the culture in West Newport Beach away from anything goes to family fun on the 4th of July. And I think these banners will be a very nice punctuation for that event this year and another good step forward. So I look forward to Council's action on that this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Selich.
No items to pull.
Councilmember Gardner.
Number 4 and number 7.
Okay. Mr. Petros.
Number 14.
Okay. Mr. Hill.
Nothing to pull.
And I have nothing to pull. Is there anyone who would like to speak on the balance of items on the consent calendar? Please come forward.
Yes. Item 12. Do I speak now?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, my name is George Schroeder. I've been a 25-year resident on the peninsula, and along with Councilmember Henn, I also agree that the change in direction with the 4th of July the last 2 or 3 years has been fantastic. But on these banners, I'm not sure that we need them. I would say last year we probably had a capacity crowd at the park. I know that Councilman Henn was there, Nancy Gardner was there, and City Manager Dave Kiff was there. And I just think we had a great turnout at the park, and I don't think we could have had 10, 20% more people, because the kids and families that were there to enjoy everything that was made available to them, if they had to wait in line half an hour more for because we're having 34 banners up for a few weeks when 100,000 people come to the beach every weekend. I'm not saying they're all going to come, but the banner that's in the packet is good if it only says 4th of July for families. That's good. If it invites all of Orange County to come down, we do have a capacity problem here. And then the second thing, I've seen a piece of writing from a resident in the area that would like the brackets to stay up all year so other banners could go up at different times. I would not support that at all. Between 32nd Street and Coast Highway, 34 banners up there, those are all residential lots. So you have somebody's bedroom about 4 or 5 feet from a 8-foot banner blowing in the wind. Okay, so to have other banners up there different times of the year close to somebody who's trying to sleep with a banner blowing would be a bad idea. So if the banners go up, I hope they only go up for this one event. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other speakers on matters on the consent calendar that were not pulled? Please come forward.
And Charles Griffin, item number 13 on the...
Okay.
Is it appropriate to speak
yes.
now?
Mm-hmm.
Let me introduce myself. I'm an old member, 83-year-old member of the community, but I resided here since the Second World War, and spent my career about 50 years developing the guidance systems for aircraft and missiles, including the DC-6, the DC-7, the DC-8, the DC-9, the DC-10, the MD-80, the C-17, the B-2 stealth bombers. So that included navigation systems based on inertial navigation and radio guidance and direct computation. But what is available to us today is primarily the global positioning system, which was developed for the B-2 stealth bomber to deliver bombs anywhere in the world. And as a result of that, you can very precisely fly the airplanes at any altitude in any direction and any slope by radio control. And that allows you to make a curving path, as you mentioned in the item, over the back bay and over the water and maybe over the turning basin instead of going over the populated area of Newport, Balboa, where my home has been for 60 years. and the planes made a turn after taking off in John Wayne to come down the bay and come over my house as a result of the jet airplanes flying out of that airport. But now, with the advent of the DC-9, I developed the automatic airspeed hold mode for the autopilot, which allows the airplane to hold airspeed and altitude, which means it can fly essentially at idle thrust after the flaps are raised. And I wish you would promote the development of that utilization of those to make the airplanes fly quieter over the bay. It only adds about 15 seconds to the flight of the airplane. And every second counts, of course, and is expensive. But I think that's a negotiable item, and I think you should spend some effort in doing that, besides utilizing this information to fly it down the water instead of over the homes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Curry and members of the council, my name is Jim Mosier. It is frustrating trying to comment on multiple items in 180 seconds, so as I normally do, I submitted the bulk of my comments to you in writing, but due to a faulty keystroke, I seem to have deleted accidentally the comments I wanted to make on item 10, which turns out to be the thickest of all the items in your agenda packet tonight. Item 10 seeks your approval to let the city manager spend $116,000 on a contract with a fire services consulting firm in Oregon, and it seems to be staff's response to the rather vague direction you gave at your January 12th planning session, where among your 50 goals for the year was one to engage in research and community dialogue about the best fire and emergency services model for the future. As the Orange County Grand Jury reminded us last year, that is probably a useful goal, provided it is sharply focused. The grand jury specifically suggested hiring someone from outside to give us an opinion as to whether the fire and emergency response services could perhaps be separated, and perhaps even if the EMS function should be contracted out. And since fire and safety labor costs are a very large part of the city budget, one might also want an impartial evaluation of whether the current model that we have could be implemented, including the lifeguard function, at a lower cost. But item 10 is so thick because it is not such a targeted outside evaluation, and instead it is one contractor's suggestion of what they would like us to do, and that is to hire them to act as facilitators to orchestrate a kind of design a civic center project with suggestions collected from the existing fire department and from members of the public selected by invitation only, and that input will be consolidated by the facilitators to formulate a plan to be presented to you, not for a smaller, but for a bigger, grander fire department. Since the direction you gave at the planning session was so vague, rather than accepting without question on the consent calendar what this one contractor would like you to do, I would suggest you give further direction to the staff as to precisely what you, as our representatives, want an outside entity to evaluate, and also for staff to provide some estimate of the true cost of embarking on this kind of project, which, considering all the staff and support time it is going to need, is going to burn up considerably more than the $116,000 going to the facilitators. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mosier. Are there any other public comments? Seeing none, I'm going to bring it back. Is there a motion on the consent calendar?
Mr. Mayor, I would move the consent calendar with the exception of items 4, 7, 14, and noting Councilman Henn's abstention on item number 11.
Okay, and that, of course, includes the amended versions as were laid out on items 3 and 8 and later for number 4.
Yes.
We'll second that motion.
There's a second?
To clarify, my abstention was on the minutes, item 11 in the minutes. Okay, thanks.
Item 11 in the minutes. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Please vote.
Okay, it's not showing on our end. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries unanimously.
Okay. Item 4, Councilmember Gardner.
This is the parking for Big Corona and Balboa using the meters. I am confused on the resolution, Section 3, or no, well, Section 4, sorry. The following fees for parking in Zone 30, which is Big Corona, are hereby established. Automobiles, $15 daily flat rate. I thought that one of the selling points for investing in the parking meters was that at Big Corona, whereas a great deal of the year we don't have anybody down there, so we make no revenue, that we would be able to go to hourly rates so that people would be invited to come down, even though they didn't want to pay $15. They only want to stay a couple hours and play a couple of games of volleyball. They would come down and use the lot. We'd get a little revenue during the off-season. What happened?
Councilmember Gardner, you're absolutely correct. That is the goal. We're taking baby steps towards it and forming the parking meter district under this resolution, and then we want to get a little bit into the season to start to refine it and make other recommendations to you as to what that timing, what the timing might be, what the sweet spot might be, what the rate might be.
Okay,
So,
but we are going to move in that direction.
most definitely, yes.
All right. Then I will move the item.
Motion, is there a second? Second. Is there any further discussion at the council? Is there someone in the audience who'd like to speak on this matter?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Curry and members of the council. I didn't know there was going to be an opportunity to comment on this, so I'm not too organized, but I believe that the city staff is moving perhaps a little too fast on something that hasn't really been very well thought out. As I tried to explain to you in my rather lengthy written comments, I think it's quite clear that this proposal is going to need a coastal development permit, both for the installation of the meters and for the rate structure that we choose to adopt, and how the expanded hours that we're going to enforce parking at Corona Del Mar will affect public access. I'm pretty confident of this because there is a similar installation of similar automated meters at Crystal Cove, and that's currently pending before the Coastal Commission, and they feel it's their purview to weigh in on that. So I don't really think this is happening by Memorial Day, at least not legally. And I don't think the Coastal Commission, I think, is going to raise a number of valid questions about this as to whether this actually provides the convenience to the public that an attended parking lot does. For instance, a parking lot with an attendant, when you come there, not ever having been to Corona Del Mar before and find that the fee is $15 for parking and all you have in your wallet is a $20 bill, the attendant can provide change. It's not clear that these machines can provide change. At the Balboa lot, apparently the way it works now, you get a ticket when you go in, and when you go out, you pay exactly for how long you've been there. It's not clear you're going to be able to do that with the machines. And the enforcement scheme of the little car going around, I don't think that's been very well thought out, as I suggested in the written comments. If it's even legal for us under our new charter to have this automated license plate recognition, I think the system would work a lot better if it metered the cars as they were going in with a fixed camera and as they're leaving with another fixed camera. That would give you much better and more reliable information as to what's in there. But however you do it, it's probably not going to be reliable, and people are going to be getting tickets that they don't believe they deserve, and I don't think we've thought out how we're going to handle that. So I think it has a lot of problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll bring it back. Is there a motion?
I already made the
Okay,
motion.
motion second. No further discussion. Please vote.
The motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Item 14, Mr. Petros.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, item 7. Excuse me. Item 7.
And item 7 is the agreement between the city and Sailing Fascination. I have no problem at all with the agreement with Sailing Fascination, but I just wondered whether we might want to, down the road, establish general guidelines for when we do, I don't know how many times it would come up, but it might be a good idea so that we are very clear when we want to waive fees or make the fees smaller. So that would be a suggestion.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion?
Yes, I will move the item.
Second.
Motion second. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this matter?
I think that's an excellent suggestion. I mean, because earlier you mentioned, I think, Coast Guard Auxiliary. I mean, there's a lot of really good nonprofit groups around the water, so maybe that is something we'd want to maybe have a list of those we might exempt or consider.
No further discussion. Please vote.
Also would like to note
I asked for
that
public comment.
an amendment to page 3 was also provided.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Gardner. Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Okay, now, item 14, Mr. Petros.
Yes, Mayor Curry, I have no issue with this item, but I did want to just make a quick point. As I walked precincts and neighborhoods this last fall, one of the main things that people brought to my attention was the getting a handle on our unfunded liability and pension issues. All you have to do is pick up a newspaper any morning and find out some city that's got some issue with this, their pension liabilities. And yet quietly, the city of Newport Beach, with just each individual step, moves forward on addressing this liability. And I think it would be a loss if we didn't just take a moment and realize the good work that our finance department, Dan, and under the direction of Chair Henn, we are eroding our liability here. And through this single act, this council can create an amortization schedule that could erase our liability as it sits today. Now, who knows what CALPERS is going to do in the future, but we would be amiss if we didn't at least raise this issue and let the public know that our staff and this council are doing the right thing and making strides to this quietly for the benefit of the public.
I think that's a very well taken point, Councilmember Petros, because what we're doing here is we are voluntarily applying more conservative rules to how we calculate our liability. We're amortizing our debt at a faster rate and therefore incurring less interest on it and therefore reducing the overall cost to the taxpayers on this. And we're able to do that because we can afford to do it because of good fiscal and prudent management over the years. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this matter?
Thank you, Mayor Curry and members of the council. My name is Jim Mosier. I would also like to commend the Finance Department for bringing this matter of choosing between several different possible amortization schedules, which, as I understand it, means payback schedules for funds we have to supply to CalPERS to you for public discussion and approval. And like Councilman Petros, I have no issue with this, but I would like to contrast this with the testimony we heard this afternoon about the FEMA program on Balboa Island. And I found curious the contrast that in that case, apparently there was some kind of audit in 2010 that caused staff to change a schedule that we were using that had big impacts on how people could remodel their homes and so forth, and that was apparently never brought to the council for public discussion or approval by the council. So it's good the Finance Department is doing this. I would hope that the other departments, when they have issues that seriously impact the public, will bring them here for public discussion and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further members of the public wish to speak? I'll bring it back to the council. Is there a motion?
I'll move the action.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Hill, please. Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. We're now ready for public comment.
Public comments are invited on non-agenda items generally considered to be within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes before speaking. Please state your name for the record.
If you have public comments to make, please come forward to the microphone. State your name.
Charles Griffin, Newport Beach, East Bluff, and Balboa Island. And the discussion of fire rings at the beaches has been discussed, and I would like to suggest that perhaps we pipe in some natural gas to the fire rings to replace the wood. You can have coals there, like a gas fireplace, which I think will not produce the fumes that the firewood has produced, and you don't have to have the coals that would result from that. So I think it's a safety item, and yet you would have the ambiance of utilizing a fire in the open place. The other thing I would like to do, too, is promote new source of energy, along with suggesting natural gas for the fireplaces. I'm suggesting you replace the natural gas with hydrogen. We used hydrogen in the city when I was a child, and before there was during the Second World War. And the Department of Southern California Gas Company manufactured hydrogen gas before the pipeline from Texas was built. And we're going to be able to produce that again with electrolysis of water from the fusion of hydrogen and boron, which is being developed by the Navy for the use of a new clean reactor for submarines. And I would hope that you would accelerate the use of that, because we can have small bathroom-sized reactors, redundant reactors in our subdivisions, and replace. Right now, Los Angeles is getting their electrical power from Dothan, Alabama, across the Mississippi. And I think we need to do something about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other speakers? Please come forward.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to comment, because the natural gas idea was considered, but the problem has been that we get high tides, and water and gas lines, is my understanding, don't go very well together. And also with the heavy machinery that we use to clean the beaches, there was concern that a line might be ruptured. So that was considered.
Yeah, but a hydrogen reactor, that's the first time that's been suggested for fire rings. Yes, ladies, please.
Good evening, council members. My name is Reed Ling.
And I'm Carol Androck.
And we are from Newport Harbor High School's environmental surf class, and we are here today to talk about banning plastic bags from our retail stores in our beautiful city. Now, I know that we're not the first to come before you and ask for this ban. I realized that last council meeting you had some girls from Sage Hill come and ask for the ban as well. We also have teamed up with Corona Del Mar High School's Environmental Activist Club, and they are on board for wanting to ban plastic as well. I'm also aware that last council meeting in Huntington Beach, they finally banned plastic from their stores, plastic bags, excuse me, from their stores, and I just feel that it is time for us to jump on the bandwagon in banning plastic bags from our city. I know that our neighboring cities such as Laguna Beach, Santa Monica, Dana Point, and Malibu all have these plastic bag bans. And I mean, we have such a beautiful city, and we really pride ourselves. And we live in Newport Beach. We are one of the best cities out here, and especially in Southern California. And I mean, again, our city is so beautiful, and it's not pretty to see plastic bags on our beaches that we take so much pride in, and in our streets. They're not beautiful, and obviously it's not just a political and a beauty issue, it's also an environmental issue.
Plastic actually takes up to 1,000 years to degrade, so it could stay on our beach for that long, because these beach cleanups are not able to pick up all the plastic bags because there's a ton, and it's harming our environment even further, because 100,000 marine mammals die every year, as well as 1 million seabirds from ingestion or entanglement by these plastic bags. So it's really become an issue, and the plastic toxins also end up in fish, which if we eat that, then it's absorbed into our bodies. So if we get this ban, then it will be benefiting our environment as well as ourselves. And it's banned all the way from LA to San Diego already, so we should jump on the bandwagon so we're not the last ones. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ladies, for coming down tonight.
And just wanted to follow up with that with a public announcement. Stephanie Barger, Earth Resource Foundation. The Sage Hill Club is hosting Bagot, a documentary on April 18th, Thursday, April 18th at 6 p.m. It's free. It's at the Oasis Senior Center. We're going to be sending out a lot of information, and we just invite the entire city of Newport Beach to really come and learn all the harmful effects. And I just want to say something about the fire pits. We go walking down there every morning, and a lot of the fires are still burning early in the morning. So I think we need to get somebody down there. And then at the far end of Big Corona, there's always leftover glass bottles and party remnants. So I don't know about patrolling late at night. And the same thing happens at Little Corona in that cave down there. There's fires almost every night down there, and a lot of trash and debris and everything. So just maybe an extra look late in the evening hours or something.
Are our cameras not working down there, I wonder? Might be something we can check.
We'll take a look at that.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Mayor Curry and members of the council, my name again is Jim Mosier. We heard earlier about takeoff patterns from the airport, and I would like to speak for a moment about an aspect of the airport that I do not see on tonight's agenda. At your last meeting, as you will recall, you agreed to a memorandum of understanding with the County of Orange in which they would serve as the lead agency, and we would help share the cost of preparing an environmental impact report related to an extension of the John Wayne Airport Settlement Agreement, a topic that seems to have since disappeared, at least momentarily, from public view. My understanding is that the EIR process normally begins with a public scoping meeting, so I'm wondering if the Council has, as a matter of policy, directed staff to keep the residents of Newport Beach continuously informed about the activities of the lead agency related to this topic, such as when and where that scoping meeting will occur, or if it has already occurred, or if we will need to seek out that information on our own, for example, by monitoring the county or airport websites or by searching the classified sections of the newspapers for some obscure announcement. I hope we will not be left on our own, but a few minutes ago I checked between your two sessions. I went over to the library. I looked on the computers there at the city manager's page under aviation and also under issues and John Wayne Airport, and I was unable to find any information or any timetable about the EIR process. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? All right, seeing none, I will close the public comments. Oral reports from council members on committee activities. Councilmember Gardner.
Last Friday, we were up in Pasadena, had a chance to look at their parking solutions, and also found a Tibetan restaurant where we ate yak. Probably nobody else has eaten yak, but that wasn't really why I was there. The League of Cities Environmental Quality Committee was meeting, and two issues of interest. One, the League supports fees for single-use bags, and they also oppose any effort at the state level to stop cities from opposing fees. The League of Cities always tries to protect local control. The other issue of even more interest, I think, to this city is they formed a subcommittee to report back on potential changes to CEQA. Not in terms of the philosophy underlying CEQA, not in terms of its objectives, but in terms of its utilization, particularly when it comes to litigation. We are invited as members of the committee to submit our ideas, so if staff or other council members have any suggestions, just email them to me and I'll be sure they get to the subcommittee before they come to the committee as a whole and then on to the League of Cities general body.
I just commend your involvement with that, Councilmember Gardner, because that's very important. There are a lot of lawyers out there who basically use CEQA as a meal ticket to enrich themselves and shake down taxpayers with frivolous lawsuits that simply make projects more expensive and delay the needed infrastructure and public amenities that we need to do. So thank you for your involvement with that. Mr. Petros.
No report, Mayor.
Mr. Hill.
No report.
Councilmember Daigle.
Well, on our aviation committee, I don't know if the city manager had a comment. I think we are probably going to be updating some of our information. Yeah, we will continue to do that. So I think Mr. Mosier's point is well taken. We've just been moving.
Well, one thing, too, remember the county hasn't even signed the MOU. It hasn't gone to the board yet. So it's April 16th, and that process doesn't begin until after that happens.
Great. Well, thanks for pointing that out. Appreciate it. Let's see. SCAG, Southern California Association of Governments, have been re-elected to another term for District 15. It's the largest, and it's always good to run unopposed. It's so much easier. And SCAG is the largest metropolitan planning agency in the country, and one of the reasons that I enjoy it is there's elected officials from all over Southern California, and you get to hear what other cities are doing in terms of addressing their various issues. And then this weekend, received an invitation from a board member at the Metropolitan Water District to go up to the Delta. And from time to time, I talk about the Delta. And this particular trip is going to focus on, how California is going to be looking at its solving some of its water problems. And particularly for us in Southern California, we're looking for ways to import more supply, more water. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Henn.
I have no reports.
Mr. Selledge.
No reports.
And just one report. I did convene a meeting this week of the mayors in Orange County that was hosted at Concordia University, and we had 15 of the 34 mayors from Orange County, along with our special guest, Mayor Bob Foster from Long Beach, to talk about the challenges of leading a city, being a mayor, and making sure we have good pension reform and economic development. It was a very worthwhile session. Okay, public hearings, item 15.
Yes, Mayor Curry. This is a public hearing to adopt another resolution to amend some previously adopted resolutions that the council considered last year in relationship to some minor general plan amendments and the companion coastal land use plan amendments. We did a similar resolution last month, and this is the final installment of these needed changes to the previous amendments so that we can get clearance from the coastal staff so that we can process the coastal land use amendments. So two of the proposed amendment changes are on the peninsula and the other is over on Bay Shores. So if you have any additional questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Any questions for staff? Mr. Hill.
I would move the item.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Seeing no discussion, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this matter? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council. Please vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Item 16, the Marina Park Coastal Land Use Plan Amendment.
Yes, Mayor Curry, we are recommending that this item be continued to your May 28th meeting. We are waiting for the final confirmation from the Coastal Commission staff on the wording that was approved at the coastal hearing that approved the amendment to the Marina Park tower height.
Very good. Is there a motion?
Move the action.
Move the action, which is to continue the item.
I'll second.
Motion second. Anyone in the audience wish to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I'll bring it back. Please vote.
Right to vote. I've just been defranchised.
Confirm. You can give me a thumbs up or thumbs
I
down.
vote yes.
Okay, the motion carries unanimously.
Okay. Item 17, annual review of the Pacific View Memorial Park Development Agreement.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Curry. This is an annual review of the development agreement the city has with the Pacific View Memorial Park, which is located just east of the Big Canyon Reservoir. Since your last review last year, there has been no further development activity. Staff has reviewed the compliance report that was submitted by the Pacific View representatives and have found them to be and continue to be in good faith compliance with the terms of the agreement. I could be happy to go into additional detail if you need be.
Any questions for staff? Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion and second. Well, I'll get there. Okay, the motion's on the floor. Is there anyone in the public who'd like to speak on this matter? Please come forward.
And members of the council, for the privilege of speaking to you and addressing this item, Agenda 17. My name is Joan Templeton, and I live directly above Pacific View Memorial Park. The last few years, the management has been extremely responsible to any requests we've made. When we call concerning the need for maintenance on the large bank that they own, which is directly below our home, they respond immediately with very polite and capable gardeners. They have removed a tree we requested that was blocking our view. The response has changed dramatically from a few years ago when we first moved in, and the whole bank was black and not maintained. So I would like to recommend that they have been doing an excellent job. The management seems very responsive, and I always like to report on something positive. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming down and take the time to share that. That's very appreciated.
Charles Griffin, I'm kind of stretching it a little bit, but I noticed on the picture you have the reservoir part of that park right below it, and I just want to put in a punch sign that, and my city councilwoman mentioned new water systems. We need water in our city, and that reservoir below there need to be filled regularly with clean water. And in order to get that clean water, we need to develop hydrogen and boron fusion so we can get power to desalinate the ocean water and get as much power as we can. We are no longer getting enough water from the Sierras because in my 60 years that I've been around, the population of the Earth has doubled from 3 billion, 6 billion, and climbing. So we're going to need more water, and we've outgrown the water from this year, so please emphasize the development of hydrogen and boron fusion.
Thank you. Any further public comments? Seeing none, I'll bring it back. The motion's on the table. If there's no other council comments, please vote.
There we go. The motion carries unanimously. Good job.
Motion for reconsideration?
A motion to reconsider the vote on any action taken by the City Council at either this meeting or the previous meeting may be made only by one of the council members who voted with the prevailing side.
The motion for reconsideration? Seeing none, we are adjourned.
May I?
Almost had under an hour.
Share a totally different topic with you?
Okay.